Happy hump day. It's Wednesday. This is a no fanager zone. Leave your fanager talking points at the door. Boxing fans speaking to other boxing fans about how we can further our agenda as boxing fans. Cali X Boxing 2.0. Hit that sub button, the alerts. Let's go. Cali X Boxing 2.0. Let's get to some comments right off the top. Good morning. Keep up the good work. Regis versus Matias. Next best fight to make. Boy, I would love to see that fight and that 140 energy. And we'll be talking about sexy divisions, not sexy divisions, but not sexy divisions acting like sexy divisions, and sexy divisions not acting like sexy divisions. We'll be talking about that today. 146, the welterweight division is still in welterweight position. Vergil versus Stanionis is off again or postponed again. Don't know why. Don't know how. I'm not going to speculate as to how. There's a lot of speculations going on out there, and I don't want to put that on Vergil or anybody else. I just don't. It's not fair to the fighters. And it's frustrating to see, right? The welterweight division just cannot get it going. Same with middleweight division. And we'll talk about healthy divisions, unhealthy divisions, and middleweight division as opposed to what the super middleweight division seems to be wanting to get something together as opposed. We talked about it not being healthy, that a 41-year-old fighter right now is perceived as possibly the best middleweight in the world in Gennady Golovkin. No matter what you think of him as a fighter at this point, that's just not healthy. It's not healthy. It's the healthy process for the younger lions to pick off the older guy, right? So we'll be talking about Vergil versus Stanionis off. The welterweight division locked up. I'll be showing you the picture of that. A division in which you have 6 or 7 undefeated fighters because guys just simply aren't fighting each other. We'll be talking about Lomachenko versus Haney being the anti-mumble rap fight, the substance fight, the legacy fight. And it may not be the fight that you think will be entertaining, right? It might not be the fight that does the numbers that a Tank versus Ryan does. And we'll speak on that as well, the differences, and why it may be a red flag as to why that one's bigger than this one, but it may not be as well. It may just be an exception to the rule. Be speaking about all of that, right? And why that's healthy. And also Benavidez Senior coming out saying, we have a 3-fight deal with PBC in which we're going to fight Plant, which we already did, Morrell Jr., and Boo Boo Andre. And if Charlo gets his act together, he says, and I'll play the clip, we'll do a Charlo fight as well. So narratives, right? Narratives. You have to be careful because you can really mess up your credibility. If you jump to conclusions, if you push certain narratives rooted off of hate, just hatred, and it's not healthy. It's not a good thing to do. And I see good people do this. That's the sad part about it. They just, for whatever reason, they decide that's the fighter I don't like, and I'm going to do everything in my possible to, troll his fans or stop him. And in doing that, I'm just going to either jump to conclusions or push false narratives, and it just messes up your credibility. It's not a good thing. It's not healthy. It's not a good thing. And had people not jumped to conclusions, they would have. This is all good news to me. This is all happiness. It's beautiful. It's positivity. But besides Vergil versus Stanionis being off, everything I've seen this week has been positive movement in the right direction, right? Undisputed fight at 135, movement at 168. This is all positive. Like, I like Canelo Ryder. I like Canelo versus Bivol too. I like Benavidez versus Boo Boo, Benavidez versus Morrell Jr. I like Benavidez versus Charlo. I like Canelo versus Benavidez. Give me any of those fights, any of them. And oh, by the way, if Benavidez were to lose one of those fights, I still want to see Canelo versus Benavidez. I'm not trying to stop that. I'm not trying to put obstacles in the way. None of this came from Canelo fans or Canelo fanboys. It all came naturally, organically. This is what the boxing fans, as Nando says, boxing Twitter is not real. YTBC not real. We try to keep it real here, but it's what happens, who's showing up to fights, who's actually supporting the sport. And the people supporting the sport have been asking, and you can see it in the demand. You can see it at who shows up for fights, how big these fighters actually are. The boxing fans have been demanding that these guys, the PBC guys in particular on 168, just fight each other. Just fight each other. And now it's organically and naturally happening. And this is a good process. And boxing fans have shown that if guys are behaving like fighters, if fighters are behaving like fighters, we'll be forgiving of that fighter if they lose. It's simple. It's a simple process. So Canelo losing to Bivol or better be of losing to, let's say, a Morrell Jr., the new boogeyman, you know, this guy right here, you know, the 8-0 boogeyman. If they lose those fights, the demand will still be there for Canelo versus Benavidez because they're the bigger names, and boxing fans have shown there are multiple, like several. Boxing is littered with instances of super fights still happening if the fighters lost before that super fight. Mayweather Pacquiao still happened after Pacquiao gets knocked out by Marquez, correct? You could go back decades. Super fights still happen if fighters lose. I don't understand what the big deal is for demanding that fighters just simply be in tough fights. I get so much pushback from some of these fighters fans when I just simply say, you know, and I already said I'll play the clip. I said on Beeb's channel the other day is I'm already there with Canelo Benavidez. Make that fight now. Benavidez has earned that shot to me by doing that bare minimum of winning winning the plant fight. I'm there. I'm not asking for any of this, but the more you do this, the bigger the fight gets. It organically builds. And I don't understand, as a boxing fan, to me, it's at its best when you're in that uncomfortable zone. Like, I don't know if my guy can win this fight. I don't know. The reason that Canelo's in the position he's in, and people will lie to you about this, they'll just act like, you know, dude stumbled out of bed with red hair, freckles, Mexican, and inherited this fan base and just kept it, right? Chavez Jr. was born on third base. Chavez Jr. inherited the biggest fan base in boxing, and he blew it. Why? He stopped behaving like the guy that they thought he was. So his fan base just shed. Canelo's has inversely grown because he just kept behaving like a dude that people expected earlier on in his career. He's fought his boogeyman in Golovkin. I was told Golovkin was his boogeyman. I was told that he fought and lost to Bivol last year. He's going to fight him again. That's his boogeyman stylistically. He fought his boogeyman in Mayweather. He lost the fight. He fought his boogeyman in Trout, won the fight. He fought his boogeyman in Lara, won the fight. When he was at 160, Billy Joe Saunders and Caleb Plant were his boogeyman stylistically. He fought him. You know, it's not difficult to see. If you go through a gauntlet, people are going to respect you more over time. It's not difficult to see. You're not going to grow fan bases by bubble wrapping dudes. It's not going to happen. And it may, for a little while, fly, right? It's not going to be sustainable. Vergil versus Stanionis is off. Of all the fights I was looking forward to, it's this one. Yep. It's off. I'll get to that in a minute. Bruce Gas, appreciate you rolling through. Wheelchair Man John, always appreciate you. Another guaranteed decision, no thanks. I'm assuming you're talking about Loma versus Haney. Fair enough. I mean, I understand stylistically it's not going to be for everybody. Fair enough. But these are legacy fights. These are legacy fights. If you're a hip hop head, and shout out to D-Style because he brought up this comparison yesterday. If you're a hip hop head, there are albums you listen to 30 years later that weren't financially a success, right? Or they were just a little bit. You have mumble rap today, 50 million views on YouTube. People are bumping it in the truck, but will people be listening to mumble rap 10, 20, 30 years from now? Will people be listening to that new mumble rap song that's a dime a dozen because there's a million of them out there because they're so easy to make? I doubt it. Legacy fights versus bubblegum fights. We'll be talking about that today, getting into it. Let me see. I got a super chat down here. Can't necessarily blame Prograde, but he did he grab the wrong bag? All I do is signing with Don King. Rougarou now the elf on the shelf. And this is another fair assessment. Is two things can be true at one time, Nando. It's dudes could be ducking Prograde, but Prograde made it easier for himself to be ducked. Dudes are ducking Bud Crawford at 147 still to this day, but Bud Crawford has made it easier for himself to be ducked. Right? Sometimes dudes make a bad business decision early on and it affects what happens. And why do they make that business decision? Because they're guaranteed money up front, guaranteed minimums. But then when you can't get the fights, there's no doubt about it. Jose Ramirez, this is going to rub some people the wrong way. And this is what makes this difficult is he avoided Regis Prograis for this fight, right? Rick Marijan can go out there and say, we sent the deal. No, but, everybody knows it's confirmed. He didn't send the deal. They didn't send the deal. They used Regis Prograis being over there with Kinahan and company, whoever, as to, we can't work with you. We can't deal with that. But at the same time, to Nando's point is Prograis has made it easier for people to go around him, right? Bud Crawford made it easier for fighters at 147 for 5 years now to go around him by some of the business decisions he's made. There's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. But that doesn't stop the fact that fighters went around him. It doesn't stop that fact. They're still going around him. So both things can be true at the same time. 115 is healthy as hell. 126 is healthy. That's right. And tomorrow we'll be talking about the fights this weekend. We'll talk about Robeisy, Ramirez, Dog Bay in the 126-pound division because that's a fun fight and that's a fun division. The man, the myth, the legend, Bruce Gas is with us. Haney could wash Loma. Loma looked faded in his last fight. Possibly. Boxing cannot get out of its own way. Wish it was on Bella, but that is not realistic because it is a global sport, but I wish it would happen. Eventually, you have to listen to the consumer. That's right. That's right. The drunk Irishman in the building. My guy, Team Batman Boxing. So a lot of comments up, and I appreciate y'all rolling through, man. I appreciate y'all rolling through on a daily basis. And I will never take, this is another thing, like, I have flaws. Like the dude that was telling me yesterday, well, you got this, you picked this fight wrong, you picked Canelo. I've always been, the people who have been following me know I've always been transparent. When I'm wrong about something, I'm wrong about it. And I'll come on here and say that I'm wrong about it. And I also, over time, over decades, have developed a belief and value system as a boxing fan that I do not stray from. And I'm not too rigid, there are exceptions, but I do not stray from it. So it makes it super easy, super duper duper easy for me to get on here for an hour and a half a day and just talk. Because I know what I believe. No matter what the scenario is, I'll generally stick to it. I have my flaws like everybody else, but it just makes it easier. I don't know. It's just frustrating to see some of the false narratives out there. And I try not to overreact to them because I don't want to push it on too many people because this could just be fringe people, because that's even tough to see at some points. But let me play this clip to everybody. Let me share a screen. Let's go to Microsoft Edge. Let's go to my Twitter. Share. And let me full screen this. Let me play this interview. This is Benavidez Sr. this week on Fight Hub TV. Let me make sure I got it up. And I do. This is full screen. This is Fight Hub TV, and he's asking them, what's next? What's next for Benavidez? What are we going to do next? What's next? And this is Benavidez Sr.'s answer.
Like I said, we already have a
contract. Let me see. I got no sound. Let's see. Let me try to get the sound up here. Let's see this. There it is right there. All right.
Contract for 3 fights. And that fight was Caleb Plant, David Morrell.
Let's start it from the beginning.
We already have a contract for 3 fights. And that fight was Caleb Plant, David Morrell, Boo Boo, and a possibility with Charlo. But if Charlo doesn't get his act together, I mean, he hasn't fought for 2 years, man. So I'm not going to wait here to see when he wants to fight. He's fighting on the social media and all that, but that shit is not making any money for him or for us, So, I mean, we're going to stay active. And like I said, we already have a contract for 3 fights. And that fight was Caleb Plant, David Morrell, Boo Boo, and a possibility with Charlo. But if Charlo doesn't get his act together, I mean, he hasn't fought for 2 years, man. So I'm not going to wait here to see when he wants to fight. He's fighting on the social media and all that, but that shit is not making any money for him or for us, So, I mean, we're going to stay active. And
I love this clip. I love this clip for many reasons. And somebody confirm that y'all heard the clip. Just confirm that y'all heard the clip, please. Anybody, just confirm y'all heard the clip. But I love that clip for many reasons. Many reasons. Is the narrative being pushed directly after the fight is that Canelo fans were instantly putting roadblocks in the way of, and the dudes are still out there. And I think it's more than just fringe extremists. That's why I bring it up. If it was just extremist dudes, I will not even bring it up. But that Canelo fans were putting the roadblocks in the way, more roadblocks in the way of a possible Canelo versus Benavidez fight when we're already there. I think the world is already there. I think that's a universal response to this, right? Is the world is already there, the boxing world. I'm there. You make Canelo versus Benavidez in September, I'm flying to Vegas for that fight. I'm spending all my money. Take my money. I'm there. But this is why I say be careful of spreading narratives and be careful of the hatred in your heart making you say things that, just take a deep breath before you start to push these narratives. Because for me, where I love boxing is when something happens that I was completely wrong about, because it's shocking. It's just shocking. I was talking about Danny Garcia versus Amir Khan. Like Amir Khan, everybody's expecting him to win. Danny Garcia comes out and knocks him out in the 4th round. And I'm jumping off of my couch as I watch it, even though I picked Amir Khan. I love those moments. And I love those moments in which a fighter that you would have never, ever thought you would be a fan of, you become a fan of over time. I said it on Beeb's channel. I'll play the clip later. Is I didn't roll out of bed wanting to like a dude that kicks, boy bands out of Sweet 16 parties, rides white horses on the beach, curses out soccer stars on Twitter. I didn't want to be a fan of that dude, but I became a fan of that dude based off the substance of what he was doing in the ring. I didn't expect that for a million years to be a Canelo fan. I didn't expect for a million years to be a fan of Carl Froch. I was cheering for Jermaine Taylor to knock out Carl Froch. Then over time, I became a Carl Froch fan. Timothy Bradley. I didn't expect to be a Timothy Bradley fan. Over time, he proved to me that he's going to fight the tough fights, win or lose. I'm there. I'm there. I have a consistent criteria as to what, the fighters that I'm going to like. I stick to that. And if fighters stop behaving like that, I'll jump off the bandwagon. But if fighters that I dislike coming in the door, and I have like more than a dozen fighters like this, where coming in the door, I'm like, I can't stand that dude. I cannot stand that guy. Why in the world would anybody like that dude? But then he fights this fight, and he fights this fight, and he fights this fight. And you're like, oh, wait a second. Wait a second. I hate this. I'm starting to like this dude. And then you like Carl Froch is corny to me. He's super corny. His wife is aggravating. She's yelling ringside, and you can't even hear the commentators, but he grows on you. So the reason I bring this up is I don't understand the narratives that are so false that anybody can sniff them out. Like the Canelo detractors, like they bring up some good and fair points, but then they just swerve and then just take everything out. You cannot. A fair criticism is not that this dude avoids fights. It's just not fair. And another one is that if he's going to avoid somebody, he's going to avoid a pressure fighter that in his first step up, he throws 45 punches per round. That's just not a fair assessment. It's not. That's just not a fair assessment. It's disingenuous, and people are going to sniff that out. And then when you're so desperate to push this that you have to say that Morrell Jr. is brought up by Canelo's fans. Canelo's fans were not even thinking about Morrell Jr. Everybody forgot this dude existed. He got 8 fights, and he hasn't fought anybody. But what has happened is Benavidez, Sampson 2 weeks ago says, we got a 3-fight deal. Morrell Jr. is next. It flew under the radar. People missed it. And it seems like they're using Canelo's name, his name, image, and likeness to push the Caleb Plant fight. And now we got a 3-fight deal with PBC. We got a 3-fight deal with PBC. We're going to fight Morrell Jr. We're going to fight Boo Boo Andre. And if Charlo, that's the funniest part of that clip. Every time I see it, I laugh. If Charlo gets his act together because he hasn't fought in 2 years, then we maybe fight him. The reason that's funny to me is that's something Canelo would say. And when Canelo says it, people jump all over him. Like, oh my God, you're ducking Charlo. You know, Benavidez Sr. says the same exact thing, and Benavidez Sr. is correct. He's 100% correct. Why are we even worried about this dude? Because he hasn't fought in 2 years. He's just showing up drunk to our fight, talking stuff, you know, picking fights with people in the crowd. Why is anybody even worried about this dude right now? He's inactive. He doesn't even have anything scheduled. So if he gets his act together, then, maybe we get to him. So I like it because Benavidez Sr. is now acting like Canelo or Eddie Reynoso, and he's saying, line up. You want the fight? Go get a fight. We'll fight you. And for me as a boxing fan, this is all good. The only pushback that I have is with these false narratives. Because if you just take this at face value, what did we do? We said for like 2 years now, stop waiting for the Canelo stimulus check to fall in your lap. Just go out and fight the fights. And that's what Canelo told Boo Boo. Just go fight somebody. It's easy. Just go fight somebody. And you'll organically get the fight, and we'll build the fight up even bigger, right? It's bigger. And why is it important to build the fight up organically? Why is that important? It's the rude awakening that I think the Tank and Ryan fans are going to have is, and I think there's a reason they priced this at $85. We're going to get the money grab. I'm not so sure that these guys are going to be the face of boxing after this fight. I'm not so sure that, we'll be able to do this sustainably because I don't know if our fighters are built like that. So let's get the bag, and it may not be sustainable after this fight. You build up fights and fighters organically, then it's more sustainable over time. Canelo has proved that. Mayweather proved that. Pacquiao proved that. Why is it exciting for me as a boxing fan when I see Benavidez Sr. come out and say, we'll fight Morrell Jr., we'll fight Boo Boo. We got we got in-house fights that we're going to honor. We got an in-house contract, 3-fight deal. Why is it exciting for me as a boxing fan? Number one, because like I said, I love Canelo. Canelo versus Ryder, I like it. Canelo versus Bivol 2, tough fight, I like it. Benavidez versus Boo Boo Andre, I like it. Benavidez versus Charlo, I like it. Benavidez versus Morrell Jr., I like it. These are all fights I like. These are all fights I'd probably buy. So that's the first part. The second part of it is it gives me more faith that if Benavidez were to be Canelo, that the baton can then be passed, because Canelo is not in charge of who he passes the baton to. This is what people are missing. Canelo can't pick a guy and say, I'm going to hand the baton to you. The boxing fans are the ones in charge of that baton. We've given it to Canelo. We gave it to Mayweather before. We gave it to Pacquiao before. We gave it to De La Hoya before. We're in charge of who has the baton. It's us. We're the ones buying the fight. We're the ones paying the salaries at the end of the day. So it's more likely that Benavidez can grab this baton from Canelo and run with it if he continues to build up his legacy before the Canelo fight. And once again, I'm not demanding that Benavidez fight these fights before Canelo, because I'm not demanding of a good fighter to do great things at this point in time. But if he proves that he's a great fighter, guess who's the first one is going to be calling him a great fighter? It's me. Benavidez could very well be one of those guys that in the door, how is anybody liking this guy? I don't really see it. But 2 years from now, if he goes through this run and defeats it and behaves a certain way over that period of time, I'll be his biggest fan. I'll travel to his fights. I'll buy his pay-per-views. I'm there. I'm there. There's no reason for me not to make a 180. There's no reason for me. Why would I hate any of these fighters just to hate them? It doesn't make any sense. That's the part I don't get. Why are you hating fighters just to hate fighters? You have to give a good substantive reason as to why you don't like them, and then it's real, right? But for me, if a dude who I don't like, Carl Froch, can't stand Carl Froch as a person, but I loved him as a fighter. Hated him coming in the door. I wanted Jermaine Taylor to knock him the hell out. But over time, I become a fan of the dude. Canelo, I didn't want to like, what's in it for me to just like Canelo just to like it? What's in it for me? He's wearing tight-ass golf clothes. What's in it for me? It's what he does in the ring. It's how he makes me feel as a boxing fan. That's the part that people are missing is, yes, it's good to have a star that can hand off the baton, right? But if the fighter that beats him does not put in the work before, that baton switch, that handoff is not going to be executed. Why did Pacquiao and Mayweather successfully grab the baton from De La Hoya and run with it? Why was that? That's the part that people are missing. They just see, the New Age fans just see that, oh, he fought De La Hoya and he got it and he ran with it. That's what the Tank and Ryan fans generally see, right? What are they missing? They're missing that, and this will never be done again. Like I'm convinced of it. Mayweather fought 6 times. I believe it's 6, possibly 7, but I think 6 times in 1998. That's 2 years into his career. 2 years into his career, this dude fought 6 times, and he fought Genaro Hernandez for a legitimate title and then defended it 2 months later, 8 weeks later, against Angel Manfredi, and became the Ring Magazine Fighter of the Year 2 years into his career by winning a legitimate title, fighting tough competition 2 years into his career, fighting it every other month, and then defending it against a fighter like Angel Manfredi 2 months after he wins it. He didn't say, I want a title, so I'm going to take a year off. He didn't say that. He didn't say, I don't care about the belts. He's saying that stuff now, but back then he did not. He was too busy building a legacy. He was too busy becoming the pound-for-pound champ, like the real pound-for-pound champ, before he fought De La Hoya. That's what made the fight big, is you got the cash cow in De La Hoya and you got the pound-for-pound king in Mayweather. Which one is going to win out? Why did Mayweather or why did Pacquiao successfully grab the baton and run with it? Why did that happen? Pacquiao had already fought in what? 7 weight classes, 8 weight classes? He fought in 8 weight classes before he even fought De La Hoya. 8. That's just not going to be done. Like, fella, you're never going to see another fighter It's like somebody on Twitter was saying, you know, who's the next Floyd? You're not going to have it. You're never going to have a dude pull off what Floyd did. It's not just the resume up front. It's independent. No matter what we think about Floyd's flaws, low risk, high reward, later on in his career, you're not going to have a fighter put in that work before the big fight and then perfectly polarize the market in which he did. You know, that HBO 24/7, that was peak boxing promotion. That was peak boxing right there. Is you'll never have anything like HBO 24/7 again. HBO commentating, that big fight feel that we had with HBO, it's not walking back through that door. And you're not going to have a fighter do an HBO 24/7 where he does the perfect, like people are going to be studying this a century from now, perfect mass marketing. It was a perfect heel turn. He made everyone hate him or love him. It was a perfect polarization. You don't have a fighter out there that's going to pull this off again. And the same with Pacquiao. You don't have a fighter who's going to fight in 11 weight classes again. I just don't see it. He fought in 8 weight classes before he fought De La Hoya, and that's what made the handoff of the baton seamless. It's all right. He's got it now. He's got it now. Not only is he that dude, now he's a star. It was easy for us to say, yeah, you got that baton. It was easier for us to say it with Floyd. You got the baton now. When Bivol beats Canelo, he doesn't grab the baton because we just don't have that trust yet, and the star power isn't there. Same with Benavidez. The more work you put in earlier, the more seamless that baton handoff is going to be, because the fans, the boxing fans, will be more ready to say, all right, you're that dude now. We trust you. We trust you. You're that dude now. We trust you to go on a run. You know, you just fought Caleb Plant, David Morrell Jr., Boo Boo Andre, you know, possibly Charlo if he gets his act together. You fight Canelo. That's a 4 or 5 fight run. We trust you now. Go. And if he had got the fight before the Caleb Plant fight, or if he would have got the fight right after the Caleb Plant fight, then we may not be trusting of that, right? So that's why this is exciting to me. Is I see this. I like all the fights. I like all these possible fights. And on top of that, it's more the percentage of that baton handoff being there and being seamless and actually being handed off it's higher now. It's higher now. Benavidez, if he pulls this off, even if he has a loss in there, he's still a marketable fighter in which you can see that guy becoming a star. It's no coincidence that Mayweather, Tyson, Muhammad Ali were all huge pro wrestling fans. They learned how to sell a fight. And we've talked about that as well. Is we don't want to see you on the mic after the fight and saying stuff like, oh, you know what? I got to talk to my promoter. I got to talk to my advisor. Got to go sit with my family. We want to see dudes grab the microphone and say, I want to fight that dude and make it believable. I want to fight that dude and I'm going to knock his head off. That's that WWE aspect of it, and that's what we're missing. Tank and Ryan don't have a resume with the same equivalence. That's right. That's right. It is when we talk about these guys, when we talk about this right here, Haney Loma, Saturday, May 20th, Las Vegas. We trust these dudes at this point. And this is another one, like Devin Haney's another dude, like he's growing on me, right? I don't want to like Devin Haney. Like, I didn't see anything. It's not that I didn't see anything special as a fighter. It's I didn't see anything of him that provided value to me as a boxing fan at that point. And then he fights Linares, and you say, okay, that's a good step up. And then you see him fight Jojo Diaz, and you say, okay. And then you see him go to Australia twice and fight Kambosos, and then fight Kambosos again. You say, all righty. That's 4 straight fights, and now he's undisputed. Now he's got all the hardware, and on top of that, he's saying, I care about the belts. I value the belts. I want legacy. I want to fight Lomachenko. I want to fight Shakur Stevenson. Then I want to move up to 140 and destroy those guys. And you start to hear this, even if you don't believe that he can pull these things off. You're saying, all right, I trust this dude because each time he says this, he backs it up. I didn't believe that he was going to go to Australia. Then he goes to Australia, and then he's got a rematch clause, and he goes back over there again. And he says he's going to fight Lomachenko, and now he's going to fight Lomachenko. And you start to see this, and you say, this is a dude that now has built up trust that I believe. And it's another example of a fighter that has grown on me. I didn't roll out of bed wanting to be a Devin Haney fan, but here we are. Here we are. And being a fan of both fighters because of their behavior as fighters. And stylistically, I can't stand Devin Haney's style. Cannot stand it. Cannot stand it. Would much prefer Lomachenko's style. Right? But the beautiful thing about this fight is it's real. It's not the mumble rap stuff. It's not the bubblegum trash that they produce and put out and push on people. This is like a real album. And it may not do what it's not going to do what Tank and Ryan do. It's at a discounted price. So Top Rank could be putting it on the clearance rack in order to sell it. They've raised the price of Tank versus Ryan. So Tank versus Ryan is going to be the bigger fight. And for boxing traditionalists, that is tough to swallow. But to give boxing traditionalists, a little positivity to go off of is I believe that's an exception to the rule. I believe that's a one-off. I don't believe Tank and Ryan are going to take this and run with it. I hope I'm wrong about that. I hope I'm wrong. I hope those guys go on a long streak of great fights. And once again, I'll be Tank and Ryan fans, but don't see it happening. And I think that's a mumble rap fight. 136 catch weight, 10-pound rehydration clause, nothing on the line of value. And belts are not everything. They're not. Sometimes they're valuable. Most times they're valuable. Sometimes they're not. But at the same time, this is a real fight right here. This is legacy. This is undisputed on the line. This is pound for pound on the line. That's another thing you're not going to have with Tank versus Ryan. Nobody's speaking about pound for pound with those guys. Those guys are not going to get in legitimate pound for pound lists after that fight. Haney versus Lomachenko, this is pound for pound supremacy fight. This is a pound for pound top 10 fight. Whoever wins that fight, there is no denying it. They have all the belts and they have a legacy defining win. Haney beats Lomachenko. There is no longer a doubt as to this is a legitimate great fighter. Lomachenko beats Haney. He rights the wrongs of the past. What happened in the Teofimo fight? Why was he not throwing punches for 7 rounds while ESPN is out there saying he's downloading data? He's downloading data. He's not downloading data. He's busy losing the fight by not being busy. He's not downloading data. He is losing the fight. Teofimo beat him at his own game. Teofimo did not beat him because he was bigger. He beat him at his own game. He was the better fighter that night. Orlando Salido beat Lomachenko because Orlando Salido was busier earlier and he was the more experienced professional at the time. Now, if you ask me who would have won in a Lomachenko-Salido rematch, I would have said Lomachenko. Who would win in a Lomachenko versus Teofimo rematch? I'd say Lomachenko, but that's theory. It's theory. Here's what we have. Lomachenko has an opportunity here to right the wrongs of the past. He has an opportunity to come out in this fight and say, I'm not going to be clinched. You're not going to be Huggy Bear Barney against me. I'm coming out here. I'm going to throw punches. I'm going to throw punches early. I'm going to take the fight to you. And I'm not going to do what I did against Salido and Teofimo. I am not going to be quiet in the first half of the fight. I'm going to try to put rounds in the bank early because this is likely a decision fight. I'm not going to be downloading data early in the fight, which is bullcrap. He was not downloading data against Teofimo Lopez. Lomachenko has an opportunity to right all the wrongs of the past here. He has the opportunity to silence his critics who have been saying, yes, I understand the hype. Yes, he looks like a great fighter, but I want to see if he can win a fight like this. And he has multiple really good wins in a row, some great wins. He has a great resume. He does. He does. But they have the critics out there who feel he's overvalued, who feel he was never the pound for pound king. And they're not going to be able to deny him if he wins this fight that he's top 6, 7, 8 pound for pound in the world right now, and the undisputed lightweight champion of the world and a surefire first ballot Hall of Famer. That's what's on the line here. This is high stakes, and that's why I say it's real. This is a hip hop head fight. This is not a mumble rap fan fight. This is not for the faint of heart, and it may not stylistically play out the way you want it. It may not stylistically be the fight that Tank versus Ryan will be, in which that is a fun fight. I'm not denying that. I would not deny that for a million years. Tank versus Ryan is a fun fight. Tank versus Ryan is a fun fight. And guess who's buying it? Me. I'm not denying any of that. I'm not denying that Tank versus Ryan is the bigger fighter because both of those guys have a bigger fan base. I'm not denying any of that. But what I'm saying is a fight like this right here, this is not for the faint of heart. This is what we talk about when you get out of your comfort zone. When you get out of your comfort zone, and that's where life starts. You can't grow when you're in your bubble wrap. You cannot grow. There is no growth there. How do you fly if your arms are tied up? What Devin Haney has said is, you may not like my style, but you're going to like the fights that I put together. What Devin Haney has said is, you may have not liked me in the door, but I'm going to make you like me because Linares, Jojo Diaz, Cambosos twice on his turf, all the belts, undisputed. I value the belts. I care about it. I'm going to fight Lomachenko. I'm going to fight Shakur Stevenson. I'm going to go up to 140 and fight the tough fights. And it's believable now. It's believable now. And that's how accidents happen. When you take fights off of paper and put them into reality, upsets happen, things can happen, but that's how you accidentally build stars. That's how things that you would have never dreamed of in a million years happen. You would have never thought early 2012 that Danny Garcia would go and beat Lucas Matisse, Amir Khan, Lamont Peterson. If you would have asked anybody at that time, they would have all had Danny Garcia ranked lower than those guys. And he would have never had a run like that at 140. You wouldn't have thought that. You take fights off of paper and put them into reality, and stuff like that happens. And or accidentally stuff happens. And you end up in a place. This is not just boxing. When you just go out there and live and take some chances, and, you know, sometimes bad things happen, sometimes good things happen. But once you get out that comfort zone, stuff happens, and you end up in places you never would have thought you would have ended up. I never would have thought. I mean, just personally, that I'd be in the place that I am in my life right now 10, 15 years ago. Mumble rap, that's racist, do better. Shout out to my guy, Drew. I shouldn't have used mumble rap. My bad. I know people are touchy. I know people are touchy-feely out there. My bad for the mumble rap fans in particular. Because, I got to be honest. I'm in my Tundra. I'm in my truck. I bump with some mumble rap, too, at times. The Young Dolphs, the Key Glocks. But when I'm listening to an album that makes me feel a certain way, that's when I want to have fun, right? I'll get in my truck. I'll turn up the radio and listen to some Young Dolph or something like that. That's when I want to have fun. But when I want something that's going to hit me right here in the chest, that's when I put on the real stuff that you listen to 30 years from now, 30 years later. Reasonable Doubt, Aquemini, Illmatic. Those are the ones that hit here. They poured their heart into it. They didn't just, come up with this in 5 minutes. They poured their heart and souls into this, and you feel it. You feel it. And that's every genre of music. If you're into jazz, if you're a jazz fan, if you're into rock and roll, you can tell when somebody put everything into it. It may not have been appreciated at the time, but 30 years from now, people are still listening to that. 50 years from now, 60 years from now, 70 years from now, people are still listening to it and still hitting them. You're not going to have that with mumble rappers, fellas. You can bump that in the truck. You can listen to it in the club, have booty shaking all over the place, some girls twerking on you, but that's not what's going to hit you in the middle of the night 20, 30 years from now. It's the stuff that people poured their heart into, put substance into, worked hard for. You can't shortcut that. You can't shortcut that. You cannot shortcut that process. Not going to happen. That's why I say stylistically, I could see this fight not being great. And that's up to the fighters at this point, right? That's the other part of this, is that part of it matters too. Will we be seeing Lomachenko versus Haney as a classic fight? Or was it just a high stakes fight that was okay? You know, and that's part of the process too. It's up to Lomachenko and Haney now to grab that moment and take it and bring it somewhere else. Because like I said, Lomachenko needs this win, or he's going to end up being the guy who, you know, great resume overall. He was once arguably pound for pound guy, you know, if we're being fair, top 5, but he was never able to get that legacy defining win. Like overall, the resume is great, but you want that legacy defining win to pull off the paper. Teofimo, he fell short. Salido in his second fight fell short. Although you can say Gary Russell Jr. 6 months later, that, you know, that's a great win. That's a great win. I would argue against the Lomachenko detractors in that. You know, I think he does have great wins, but this is different. This is all of the hardware. This is one of those fights you'll be remembered by. Did you fall short again? Ken Haney, you know, there's the Haney detractors out there still. It's, yes, he won undisputed, but he did it in an easier way than some of the other guys in the 4-belt era. And that's a fair assessment. It is. Kambosos maybe is not who we thought he was coming in. It's fair. Linares was older. Jojo Diaz win may not be aging as well. This is all fair. But once again, he has the opportunity here to say and just push it in everybody's face and say, I'm that dude. I'm that dude now. You can't deny it. This is an I'm that dude type of fight. Devin Loma, undisputed, pay-per-view, pound-for-pound status and Hall of Fame level stuff. I am just team best, fight the best, as am I. Loma is old, no challenge for Haney. We shall see. GOAT, hype for both. As am I, but there are clear distinctions and differences here. Clear differences. Obviously, undisputed, the much more meaningful fight. Folks said Hopkins was too old for Tito and Manny was too old for Thurman. And this is what I'm saying, Nando, is when you take those fights off of paper, that's why the mythical battles dudes on Twitter and YouTube drive me crazy, because they're just mythically battling each other to death like it's some Pokemon battle at the lunch table. And then you just, you know, suggest that maybe their fighters should actually fight these fights, or you suggest that maybe your fighter would lose this fight and these dudes start to spaz out like Jesse Spano on a caffeine pill overdose. It's like, dude, relax. You know, you just suggest that maybe, just maybe, you know, it's not too much to ask for Benavidez to fight the 8-0 boogeyman. And they start to act like Jesse Spano in her bedroom having a caffeine pill overdose because she was trying to get into Stanford. It's like, dude, it's not a big deal. This isn't too much to ask. And if he loses, we're still there. He's still a marketable fighter. I don't get it. Well, I mean, what's in it for the fans to bubble wrap their favorite fighters? What's in it? What's in it for you? What's in it for you? The fun part about boxing to me is when stuff happens that I never would have thought happened. That's the fun part about life. Like, why? How did that happen? How did that happen? I thought I was going to have a bad day, but I walk into a club and meet my wife at a club. Never would have thought that happened. Or, you know, just stuff happens. I accidentally put in job resume and ends up being, turning into a career. Boxing is the same way. I never in a million years would have thought I'd be a Timothy Bradley fan, a Carl Froch fan, a Pernell Whitaker fan. These are dudes walking through the door who I never would have thought that. And I never would have thought I'd been a Canelo fan, but here I am. Dudes throwing Sweet 16 parties and kicking boy bands out and cursing them out. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. He's cursing them out. He's cursing out Lionel Messi for accidentally stepping on a Mexican flag. He's riding white horses on the beach, which seems a little sus to me. And then, he's wearing super tight golf clothes. And I never would have thought I'd be a fan of that dude, but I am. That's the fun part about this, is stuff happens that you never would have thought would have happened. I love living in that area right there. And that's the weird part about dudes just pushing narratives that aren't true just for because they have hatred for a fighter. It's weird. It's weird. I wish they would. And some of these dudes are good people. That's the sad part about this. I know some of them. They're good people. I understand why some of these channels do it, because like we said, they monetize it. We talked about the value. Lion Killer brought this up, right? The value of 78 Sports TV's channel is $325,000, something like that. The value of, what's the other guy, Fannin something's channel is $183,000, something like that. These guys are making $250,000 per year, up to $250,000 per year for dropping these videos. So I get why they do that, right? I understand it. I wouldn't do it, but I get it. I understand it. I don't understand the consumers who do it. And then I don't understand the channels who just do it just to do it. They're not getting anything from it. They're not loading up on super chats. They're not getting super AdSense money. I don't understand why you're doing it. Why are you doing that? Nobody was pushing the narrative that Benavidez needs to fight more fights before he gets the Canelo fight. It was Samson saying it. It was Al probably saying it behind closed doors, is let's get these in-house fights in. Let's just stop waiting around. It's time. Let's go. Or it's the fighters taking control of their career. That's more likely. It's probably Benavidez behind closed doors saying, why are y'all handcuffing me? I'm not scared of anybody. And I fully believe that. I don't think Benavidez is afraid of anybody. We can talk what we want. I don't think he's a monster based off of what I saw Saturday night. Some people think he is. All that's fair assessment. But I don't think this dude is afraid of anybody. He's probably behind closed doors yelling and screaming, saying, give me Plant. Give me Morrell Jr. What? This dude's got 8 fights. So what? Give me Charlo. He hasn't fought in 2 years. Who cares? Give me Boo Boo Andre. Like, that dude's ducking. Boo Boo Andre is the first fighter in history who ducked 2 fighters twice in the same calendar year. It's amazing. So Benavidez has to be looking at these dudes like, why am I not fighting these guys? Somebody explain this to me. Why am I not fighting these guys? The interesting thing about Benavidez is the inverse of Canelo, and it's the inverse of Mayweather. It's the inverse of Pacquiao. Well, what did I say? Like, Mayweather's detractors, like myself, were bigger fans of Mayweather than the Mayweather super fans, because the Mayweather super fans wanted to explain away why he's fighting low risk, high reward, why he's not fighting Pacquiao now. I didn't care if Pacquiao was juiced to the gills. Go fight the fight. I believe highly in you, so I believe you can win that fight. I believe you're going to beat Sergio Martinez at 155. He said he's willing to do it there, so go win the middleweight title. I believe that you could do those things. Why are you not doing that? Why are you fighting Robert Guerrero? Why are you fighting Victor Ortiz? Hopping off of a movie set. Go do the fights. I'm higher on you than your super fans are. Don't let them hold you back. Pacquiao, the same thing. I'm sure the Pac-Tars were not as high on Pacquiao as some of his detractors were, level-headed detractors. Canelo, the same thing. Canelo's haters are higher on Canelo than his fanboys because, and they can't be honest about why they are. Why they demand so much of him. Why they think if he goes this way, he's ducking 12 fighters at the same time. They're disingenuous, but they are big-time fans. Benavidez is not like that. Benavidez, his super fans are higher on his ceiling what they think his ceiling is than his detractors. People like me see Benavidez fight, and they're like, a pressure fighter, special pressure fighter, throwing 45 punches per round in his first step up. I don't necessarily see it. I don't necessarily see it. As a Benavidez fanboy, you're trying to push on me that he's the boogeyman, that everybody's avoiding him, that he's a special pressure fighter who's going to walk through everybody, and then he gets in there and fights Plant and can't get the stoppage, and then the narrative starts to 22 for a ring. You know what I've seen before? I've seen fighters get knocked out in 22 for rings. I saw Billy Joe Saunders pull this move where the night before the fight, the day before the fight, he says, I want a 22 for a ring or I'm out. And Canelo says, who cares? Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. You know, he says it, and he said, take it. I'm gonna knock you out anyway. And what does he do? He comes in the next day and just knocks his orbital bone to shreds and knocks him out in a 22 for a ring. You know what else I've seen? I've seen Kenny Bayless referee fights in which fighters get knocked out on the canvas and they're looking up at Kenny Bayless. I've seen it. I've seen it with my very own eyes. So it's super weird when you start to see people use the narrative that Kenny Bayless 22 for a ring. Well, monsters don't have to worry about that stuff. Don't have to worry about that stuff. Monsters knock dudes out in 22 for rings with Kenny Bayless in there, and they're acting like Kenny Bayless was one-sided. What happens when you break up clinches? You speed up the fight. Your arms are free now. Go to your pressure fighting. Your arms are free again. Go to your pressure fighting. Speeds up the fight, makes it harder for Caleb Plant to survive, and he still survives. It's both ways. It goes both ways. It's a super weird. Once again, it's another super weird narrative. But we see Benavidez fight, you know, I think the level-headed people and say, you know, he's got possibility of being great, but he's not there yet. He's good. He's a good fighter, and that's a good win. I think that's a level-headed response. The Benavidez super fans see you say that and say, oh, you're hating, he's already there, and, you know, you're trying to stop the fight. I'm not trying to stop anything. We've been over this. It's an easier fight for Canelo. Canelo has never, it's another weird thing about the narrative. Canelo has never been afraid. In fact, he'd rather fight pressure fighters. He'd rather fight those fights. He'd rather fight those fights. I have that clip. When I was talking to Beeb about this, I went on his channel and talked about this. Where is it? Let's see. Yep, this is it right here. I'm going to pull this up too, because I want people to see my assessment of Benavidez, what I think about Benavidez as a whole. And one thing I may be wrong about in this video is that the Benavidez fight happens in early 2022, because when I see 3-fight deal PBC, that might not be the truth, right? You know, but let me share this real quick, full screen it, and this is my overall thoughts on the monster thing and the Canelo ducking him thing. Benavidez, in order to beat Canelo, who are the guys who have given Canelo issues in the past? You know, just take a stab at it.
I would say,
like
guys,
the stylistically.
I would say the guys who fight well on the outside and can beat them with the jab and stuff.
Like Mayweather, Bivol. Those are two special, versatile fighters. Like we've talked about this, you and I. Is if you look at CompuBox, Bivol is the most versatile fighter in the sport statistically. Mayweather was when he was there. Versatile fighters who can move and do different things, give you different looks. Those are the guys that are going to get Canelo more issues, right? Even Golovkin through the first 24 rounds. You could argue Golovkin definitely won one, possibly won the second one. Golovkin's not just a pressure fighter. He can give you the jab out of the peekaboo style. He can give you the up jab. He can give it to you offensively, defensively. He can fight off the back foot, front foot. He can give you different looks, right? The guys who do not give Canelo problems, and in fact, Canelo would rather fight these guys, is pressure fighters who are going to be there for him to find, particularly pressure fighters who are bigger, because they're easier for him to find. He can go to the body, right? Angulo, Kirkland, these guys gave Canelo no issues. And Benavidez is the type of pressure fighter. He's more slow plotting, and he's more direct lines, right? And the punches are a little more telegraphic. So this narrative that's being built up that Benavidez is Canelo's boogeyman, I've never understood it, because he's not the guy that would be that guy, right? Bivol the boogeyman for him. And that's the thing, like, they want to make it out to where Canelo is avoiding a boogeyman, yet he fought his boogeyman last May, and he's fighting him again in September. So if there's a guy to avoid, it's Bivol. Like, well, and I don't want to keep going to that well and go over this over and over and over, because I feel like I've said it so many times at this point, but the Canelo is ducking Benavidez narrative has always been so flimsy that you can poke a million holes through it. First of all, stylistically, it doesn't make sense that he'd be avoiding that guy, because he never had an issue with pressure fighters. And the same people saying that he's ducking Benavidez have always been the ones saying he ducks lateral movers. He has issues with lateral movers, yet he fights the lateral movers. And one of his boogeymen that he just fought and lost to, he's fighting again. Everybody, I think it's universal at this point, is saying Benavidez is the easier fight than Bivol for Canelo stylistically. Everybody's questioning why he's fighting Bivol instead of Benavidez. Well, one of the reasons Benavidez has a 3-fight deal, as we talked about with Benavidez Sr. So we don't have to even talk about that. That's not going to stop them from spreading the narrative that Canelo still doesn't want to fight. It's not going to stop them. You know, don't even doubt me on that. But people are questioning why the Bivol fight again. It's simple. It's really simple when you think about it. You're not going to tell an alpha male, you're not going to tell a type A dude that he's not going to try to get the get back against a guy who's gotten better than him. And that's not just boxing. That's not just sports. You're not going to scrape a certain dude's car and he just walk away. It's not going to happen. You're not going to mess with a certain dude's kids and he's just going to walk away. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Some dudes just cannot let it go. They will never let it go. It's like a pit bull. When it gets a hold of something, they are never going to let a grudge go. Never. It's never going to happen. It's that Mamba mentality. It's Kobe. It's Jordan. If a guy gets the best of them, it will eat them alive until the next time they face him. It's Tom Brady. It's Joe Montana. It's going to eat them alive. It's any great baseball player. Until the next, if they strike out, until the next at-bat against that pitcher is going to eat them alive inside. And Canelo, I guarantee you, is eating him alive. That Bivol got the best of him, and he's not going to let it go. He is not going to let it go. It's simple. It's as simple as that. People are trying to do the mental gymnastics and twist it up into making this a bad look for Canelo and all this stuff. Is really no more simple than that. He will not let this fight go. It's eating him alive what happened in May 2022. You can try to say he's ducking Benavidez by fighting Bivol. It doesn't make any sense. And anybody with two brain cells to rub together will see that. Benavidez is more than just a pressure fight. And that's another thing I brought up on B's channel is the thing about Benavidez on Saturday night, he showed some versatility, right? No matter how you do it, if Plant's punch percentage went drastically down, Benavidez showed good defense. Even if it didn't technically look like good defense, it's good defense. Benavidez once again showed the jab in the second half of the fight. Benavidez showed adjustments, and Benavidez also not enough adjustments, by the way, but he showed that he can decision a good fighter. People try to make him out to be just a knockout artist. He decision a good fighter. But once I said, it's what I said on B's channel, is packaging matters. Packaging matters. You packaged him a certain way. This is number one. You packaged him as a monster, then he better come out there and look like a monster and just seek and destroy and kill and shoot lasers out of his eyes, because that's what you built up. And you cannot sell somebody as a monster, and it's going to rub people the wrong way if he's throwing 32 punches per round as a pressure fighter in the first half of the fight. It's like you telling me this is a scary movie. It's a scary movie. Let's go to the movies and watch it. This is a scary movie. And I go to the movies and watch it, and it's not scary. And then we come out the theater and you say, look, yeah, but it's good. It was good. It showed some versatility. It's a good movie. That's not what I came for. I came to be scared. You told me it's a scary movie. And I didn't see anything scary. And I certainly didn't see a specialist on Saturday night. You promised me a specialist. You promised me a special pressure fighter to where he is the monster. And that's not what I got. I got some versatility, and I got some good versatility. I didn't think it was great versatility, but I got some good versatility. And you can't tell me, after selling me on a certain thing, you can't tell me, oh, yeah, but it was good. I know it was good. I know, I have eyes. It's a good win, good fight, good judging. Everything was good, good atmosphere, good buzz. I'm sure the live gate was good. I'm sure they'll make some money off of pay-per-view. So it was all good. It was all good. I'm fine with it. He showed versatility, but what I didn't see was his specialist. And sometimes it's better to be the specialist than the versatile fighter. Sometimes just in being special at one thing, you can become versatile in the CompuBox ratings. Right? You can show great defense just by being a pressure fighter, right? As far as CompuBox, because dudes get so gun shy that you're so special at pressure fighting that your defense ends up being good. But sometimes it's just better to be special at one thing. Sometimes it's better to be a special three-point shooter like Reggie Miller than being overall just good at everything. This is let me take this comment down right here real quick. This is the welterweight rankings currently. Welterweight. In the welterweight division is still in welterweight position. It's still on hold. It's still locked up. And this is frustrating. And we're starting to sound like a broken record. In this division, it's just, to me, this is another litmus test, is when you see this picture right here, when you see this graphic, when you see these records, some people are going to see this and say, oh, what a loaded division. What a great division. Look at the records. Look at 6 undefeated fighters. You know what I see as a boxing fan when I see a top 10 with 6 undefeated fighters? And to be quite honest, I don't know if I necessarily fully agree with this. And some rankings have Cody Crowley in the top 10. So you would then have 7 undefeated fighters. So 6 to 7 undefeated fighters. 60 to 70% of your division is undefeated. When that is happening, that is not a healthy division. That's not 140. That's not 154. That's not 168. When you have a guy at the top, let's just put it this way, because I don't want to get into the Spence Crawford arguments. When you have 2 guys at the top who haven't fought each other for 5 years, half a decade, that's not healthy, number one. That's the first thing not healthy. Then when you have younger fighters not able to clout chase off of names that are past it. Guys like Thurman, guy like Danny Garcia, who apparently is going to fight in some sort of weird middleweight title championship at 155 pounds, which is just weird. But when you have guys like Thurman and Danny Garcia not willing to provide glorified gatekeeper services to younger fighters just because they don't want to fight the younger fighters. And it's beneficial to them as well, because maybe they can beat the younger fighter. And on top of that, they're going to make a good bit of money. They're going to make a good bit of money in providing this service. They're in top 10 fights in the division. So it's beneficial to them as well. It's not beneath them. So that's the second thing that's unhealthy about the division. The third thing that's unhealthy about the division is if those guys are not providing that service to the younger fighters, then the younger fighters should fight each other. Fight each other. Try to take one of the other guys. Put pressure on the top 2 guys to where if you're not going to fight each other, you got to fight me now. So the optimistic part about this coming into this year was Vergil's going to fight Stanionis. Vergil is going to fight Stanionis. 5 versus 6 or 4 versus 6, no matter where you got these guys, 3 versus 5, wherever it was. You've got 2 top 5 to 6 guys in the division coming up undefeated that are finally going to fight each other. And what happens? It's pushed off. Stanionis gets ill. And then right now the rumblings are it's pushed off, but the rumblings are Vergil's either sick or injured. And it just seems snake bitten at this time. So it just seems like this whole division is snake bitten. It just cannot get its act together. when you see a Boots Ennis at number 3, and I have all the Boots Ennis fans telling me he's the guy, you know, he's the best pure welterweight we've seen since Sugar Ray Leonard. He's the best pure pound for pound talent we've seen since Roy Jones. He walks on water. You know, he just glides through the ring. Nobody can beat him. He wins all the mythical matchups. And then you see his dad, Boozy, come out and say, we actually don't have a contract with Showtime. We don't have one. You say, wait a second. What? This whole time, everybody's been under the impression that you had a contract with Showtime, which makes it difficult for you to get fights. And why does it make it difficult for you to get fights? Because you're not with the PBC and you're with Showtime exclusively, right? That's what we thought. And Al's not going to serve you up to his fighters, so you have to fight on Al's undercard. You can't get your main event on Showtime because they don't have the budget, and Al's gobbling up all the main events. So it's tough for you. We get that. We get it. You know, you just have to wait it out. You got to fight. Mandatory, just try to stay as busy as possible, fight quarterly, or move up in weight to give up some of your attributes. But Boozy comes out and says, we don't have a contract. You know, we just prefer to work with Showtime. And, guys are offering us things. You know, BLK Prime came to us to approach us about a Bud fight, but we said, no, we only work with these guys over here. And I'm looking at this and saying, what is this? What is this? He's not tied down to Showtime, but they refuse to fight off of Showtime. And I'm supposed to feel sorry for this guy sitting at number 3 who hasn't accomplished a damn thing. This is the welterweight division. This is the modern welterweight division. We're looking at it. This is not a welterweight division that I've come accustomed to as a boxing fan since the 90s. Guys mix it up. For the most part, you have your exceptions, Mayweather, Pacquiao at the top, locked up the division. But for the most part, guys have been willing to mix it up at welterweight. It's a sexy division. For the most part, guys have been willing to mix it up at middleweight with exceptions, right? Cotto with Golovkin, maybe Sergio with Golovkin. No, other than that, guys have been willing to mix it up in these sexy divisions. Now you have a middleweight division in which the current middleweight division may be the worst boxing division I've ever seen in my life. It is atrocious. That is some serious short bus stuff going on at middleweight right now. And welterweight is not far from it. So it's another litmus test in which, once again, if I look at welterweight, if I look at this picture, just show a boxing fan this picture, and I think you'll get a good grasp of what type of boxing fan that is. It's a litmus test. It's some boxing fans, I think more new age boxing fans will see this and say, what a talented division. What a great division. Look at all the undefeated fighters. But I think most of us who have been around the block will tell you it's not normal. It's not healthy. It's not organic for a division to have 6 to 7 undefeated fighters in the top 10. I don't think I've ever seen such a thing. I could be wrong about that, but I don't know if I've seen such a thing in which possibly 70% of the top 10 in the division are undefeated. And that's not healthy. That's a locked division. That is a welterweight, W-A-I-T division. Everybody is just waiting around. And we're all just looking around super confused. We're all just super confused. I mean, those of us who have been around in particular, we're all just looking around like, are they going to do something? You ever seen that meme where just the guy's poking a stick at something and he's just saying, do something, do something. That's how I feel about the welterweight division. Please do something. This is me like sticking the stick at this thing. Do something, do something, do something. Please, somebody do something. They keep telling me Spence and Crawford again are in negotiations. Lord, I hope so. Because right now, what do we have? We have Spence hasn't fought in a year. Crawford fought 3 months ago against a top 10 guy in David Evanesian. So I got to give him credit there. And at least Spence fought the number 4 guy in this picture a year ago, but it was a year ago. Spence and Bud, no matter who you want to put the blame on, I think I know who to put the blame on, but no matter who you want to put, I don't want to start that conversation, but they haven't fought each other. That's locked, and that is not normal. 1 and 2. For the second time in modern boxing history, 1 and 2 in the welterweight division are going half a decade plus without fighting each other. Why in the world would people allow that? How in the world are boxing's power brokers not getting that together? And once again, I want to point out there's been one guy has been the common denominator in both of those. Floyd versus Manny, Errol versus Bud. I shouldn't say 1, 2. So that may make it a little murkier on people who to blame, but I don't want to get into that conversation. The point is 1 and 2 haven't fought. Number 3, his dad is out there saying, we prefer work with Showtime. We're not going to work with anybody but Showtime, even though we can't get the dates. We can't get main events. We're still not going to go off of that, even though we don't have a contract. Number 4 hasn't fought in a year. Number 5 and 6, we're finally going to fight each other, and then we're going to finally fight each other again, and now it's off again. Number 7, good Lord. God only knows what he's doing, and God only knows why. This is one of the things that I would disagree with. And I like Ring Magazine, shout out to them, but Keith Thurman at 7, I just don't get it. And people will tell me, he's Keith Thurman, though. When's the last time he was Keith Thurman? Take the name off. Take his name off and just look at his resume the past 3 to 5 years. How is he number 7? Yeah, like you should have to do some things to stay at number 7, right? Conor Benn and his eggs are at number 8. And I don't mind Conor Benn. I'm not one of these guys like going after Conor Benn right now, but I don't even mind him, but he's still like, he's not doing anything. Simply not doing anything. Keith Thurman just like, he's out there right now. Like I promise you the percentage, the chances of him doing yoga right now underneath an oak tree are pretty high. Playing a flute. But one thing he's certainly not doing is active in his boxing career. Number 9, Butayev. I like Butayev. He took a shot with Stanionis, good fight, but once again, not highly active. Avanesian took his fight with Bud and got knocked out. Another guy not super active. So 9 and 10, that's fine. But this is it's just not a good division. It's just not a healthy division. It's just not, man. It's simply not. You don't have any killers like this in that division, right? Let me get to some comments real quick. And once again, man, I always appreciate y'all coming through. I don't take it for granted at all. At all. Let's see. Triple G was the monster, and Canelo fought him. He fought him again. He fought him again. People are downplaying the fact Benavidez won the decision over Boxer Mover. That was how Plant was supposed to win. Benavidez should get more props, in my opinion. And look, it's Mario, is fair to say he showed versatility. It's fair to say he showed versatility in that he can beat a good fighter by decision. He's not a one-trick pony. But what I was promised was a monster who just goes in there, shoots lasers out of his eyes, and just destroys. And I didn't see that specialist in there. I didn't see a guy who can just go in there and destroy. It's not what I saw. It's like packaging matters, Mario. If you tell me we're going to see a great comedy and I walk in there and I don't laugh one time, or maybe, I laugh 1 or 2 times, somewhat, and then I walk out and you say, oh, it was a good movie, right? No, I mean, it really wasn't. Like, it wasn't funny. It was good, but it wasn't funny. Yeah, but, it's romantic comedy, so at least it was romantic, He's a boxer puncher, but, he didn't show that he was much of a puncher, but he's still a boxer. I was promised a KO via broken jaw, as was I. Inactivity. Welterweight is effing stinker, but middleweight is worse, especially because of quality of fighters. Like Alex said, we were promised a monster, and that's not what we got. Ennis versus Ortiz should happen now. Now, Ortiz, I'm hearing, is the one injured. So, I don't know what they're going to, I don't know how bad the injury is or the illness. I don't know anything about it. And once again, I'm not going to speculate. I'm just not going to speculate. You got people out there speculating on drug use, VADA testing, all that stuff. I'm not going to speculate on any of that. man. I have no idea what's going on in that camp. Untapped potential is what I see, and definitely inactivity. Wasn't Spence going to fight Thurman? He was, and there's no announcement. I don't know who's fighting who. I don't know who's fighting who. Now they're saying they're back in negotiations between Bud and Errol. Perhaps they'll come out with an announcement for that for the summer. Perhaps, who knows? But right now, as of right now, that picture is bleak. Somebody needs to do something. Somebody needs to step up and take over that God-forsaken division. For the love of God, somebody please step in and take over that God-forsaken division. It's like I say about middleweight. It's like somebody at junior middleweight just step up and take that over. That was a natural process back in the day too. Is guys at 154, they took over 154 and they just naturally moved up to the sexier division and took it over. Nobody's doing anything. Facts are always the top 5 at welterweight are allergic to fight each other, it seems. Wasted talent. Yeah. True that many undefeated guys so highly ranked is a joke. Nobody in the amateurs is undefeated. That's what happened when you're matched evenly for most guys having an unbeaten record. You're not fighting the best, or at least seeking to. PBC, Showtime, have welterweight froze up, Mayweather, Heyman effect. Fight's off. Fight's off, JC. Or I shouldn't say it's off. It's either off or postponed. Off or postponed. And I don't know. Apparently it's due to Vergil, an illness or an injury, but I don't know the extent of it. I don't know how long it's off or how long he's out. I don't know that. True, but Spence and Crawford get credited as if they have beaten the other. Let's be honest, Canelo be 62-0 if he faced the level of opposition they have. He is having rhabdomyolysis flare-ups once again, unfortunately. So there you go. It's the same thing he had last year that's flaring up again, and I wonder if that's due to weight loss. And, I have to confirm that, and Remy's the man. He is. So I don't doubt him for a minute, but we got to confirm that. And that's what it is. It's a flare-up. I don't know how serious that is, but it definitely pushed back his career in 2022. So that would be unfortunate because he's a talented fighter. And it looked like he was going for it here. He beat Barrios and Pacquiao fight. Was close. PBC guys are not active. Golovkin was a real monster. He had 21 KOs on the bounce of Savage in the ring. He had a nice middleweight run, man. He just did. A lot of people won't give him that credit, but he had a nice middleweight run. The only division worse than 147 is 160. 41-year-olds never hit the canvas at the elite level or at that many fights. It's the same condition he had the last time, rhabdo per statement released by GBP. So that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate there. I mean, I don't know what causes rhabdo. I'm certainly not a doctor here. I didn't sleep at a Holiday Inn Express last night. I don't know. I don't want to speculate on any of that. I'm sure people are going to throw out theories. I just don't want to get into that. And that's unfortunate because this was a fight I was looking forward to. And it further puts this division in shambles. I mean, this is just atrocious. This is atrocious. But what do y'all think about this? Real quick, comment section. Do y'all think that Haney deserves being a 3-1 favorite over Lomachenko? Do y'all see that? Some of the wild cards with this fight are both of these guys like competing at 135, and I think for different reasons. I know for different reasons. Haney likes competing at 135. I think it's preferable to him than 140 because if you look at the 140 landscape, I think Haney is more vulnerable at 140 than 135. 140, you have some true killers there with experience, who've been in competition, and he's not going to be able to hit and hug those guys to death for 12 rounds, I don't believe. It'll be tough skating for Haney at 140 than at 135. I think the matchups are more preferable to him at 135 than at 140. And by the way, the names are bigger. So it behooves him to stay at 135 right now and drain himself down, even though he looks like a skeleton at the weigh-ins. Lomachenko is the opposite. Lomachenko, he can make 130. He might even be able to make 126, but he stays at 135. Why? He stays at 135 because he prefer fighting bigger fighters who he can use his angles against, right? He's got a long run at lightweight, so I don't want to hear the dude saying he's not a real lightweight. He's not a real lightweight because he can make 131. He's a lightweight. I know he can make 130. I know he could possibly make 126, but he's been fighting at lightweight for what? Damn near 10 fights, whatever it is. Half his career, he's a lightweight. He's a lightweight. So I bring this up for two reasons. Is they're both a wild card because will Haney be a guy who goes down to the well too many times and get weight drained? And that's a real thing, by the way, because I remember when Cotto was hurt by Paulie Malignaggi, of all people. And why was he hurt by Paulie Malignaggi? He went down to 140 one too many times. One too many times. Just weight drained. He looked awful at the weigh-in before that fight. It's a real thing. So it's a wild card. Does Devin Haney go down to 135 too many times? Will he be drained? Or Lomachenko, same thing. As you age, those angles start to get tighter. Those angles start to get tighter. And it's tough to execute those angles as you get older. And he's very much one of those fighters who needs to execute those angles. He needs to have success there. And another reason I bring this up is I don't want to hear the excuses after the fight. You signed the contract to fight at 135, so I don't want to hear that you're weight drained. It's a good explanation, but it's not an excuse as to why you lose the fight. So I don't want to hear weight drain, and I don't want to hear excuses about, oh, you know what? He can make 130 and 126, so he's not a true lightweight. No. He's had a ton of success at lightweight other than the Teofimo fight. So I don't want to hear that he's not a lightweight. He's a lightweight. Both these guys are lightweights. This is grown man business right here. This is not catch weights. It's not rehydration clause. It's not trying to tie a guy's one of his hands hand behind his back. This is grown man business. And in grown man business, we don't make excuses. We put the chips on the table and we play our cards. And that's it. No excuses after that. Somebody's taking all the chips. Somebody's going home empty-handed. They're both going to make money, no doubt about it, but somebody is going home with 5 belts. Somebody is going home with 5 belts. Haney's either going to take him right back to his trophy case, or Lomachenko's finally going to have that undisputed tag that he's been wanting to have and that Bob Arum has been wanting him to have. And that's the beautiful thing about boxing. Once again, I'll bring this up one more time, is when you put fights and you take them off of paper and you put them into the real world at a higher percentage, it's a higher percentage that things don't go as planned. What was Bob Arum's plan from the very beginning, in my opinion, is Lomachenko becoming the undisputed champion at lightweight. And what happened? Teofimo upset that apple cart. So what happens then is Teofimo's the new guy. Now we can build stardom around him, and then we got the whole Triller stuff, and then they wait around, and then the fight finally happens, and then what happens? He looks atrocious, and now Kambosos is the guy. So you say, okay, that was run too, so let's do this. Let's try to build Kambosos in Australia. So Haney, you go out there and fight him in Australia, and then we'll even give Kambosos a rematch clause, and we'll try to build Kambosos as this big Australian star. And what happens? Haney styles on him, and then he styles on him again. And the first fight goes from being in a soccer stadium to a smaller arena. Why? Because people start to see that, you know, maybe this isn't the star. And then things happen, right? And now Devin Haney is the guy. So now we can possibly build things around Devin Haney, or Bob Arum's plan is let's circle right back to the beginning. Let's see if Lomachenko can become undisputed. And the beautiful thing for Bob Arum here is no matter how it plays out, it's good for him because Haney can be a star built accidentally, or Lomachenko circles right back and becomes undisputed. I don't know. To me, this is a toss-up fight. So when I see these odds, and this is why I ask, this question, is I think Lomachenko is undervalued at plus 230. So are these good odds good? Andre says no. Liza says no. That's disrespectful to Loma. Yes, Haney is favorite, especially if you watch Loma versus Lopez. Loma has a hard time fight with dudes with long reach and a good jab. And that's a fair assessment too. Another fight is Jermaine Ortiz fight. It's how much do we read into that? Is it inactivity? Is it him coming back off the shoulder injury? Is it Jermaine Ortiz just simply better than we expected? Because you got to remember, Lomachenko was a humongous favorite in that fight, and that was a close fight. So it was Jermaine Ortiz. Just did everybody read him wrong? And he's a very good fighter, or is Lomachenko getting old right in front of our eyes? Like I said yesterday or 2 days ago, boxing fans seem to think that fighters stay in their prime longer than they actually stay. A prime does not last that long, fellas. A prime can last 3, 4, 5 years, but that's it. And it's generally in your 20s. And I'm not trying to use age as an excuse. It's just the natural, healthy process. It's you weed the older guys out and the younger guys take over. It's a recycling process that happens naturally, and it happens in healthy divisions. It's why we say 147 and 160 are not healthy divisions, because there's no recycling process happening. There's no movement. Loma can probably make 130 pounds. He definitely could. I'm going with Haney to win. My poll on the Haney versus Loma fight is currently at like 5.3K votes, and it's currently 55% Haney and 45% Loma. Yeah, I mean, either way, 55-45 either way, to me, is right in the wheelhouse. Loma being a plus 230 underdog is fair. Haney is naturally a bigger fighter who holds all the belts and is undefeated, while Loma didn't look that impressive in his last performance. Another fair take. You should do a poll on which fight you were looking forward more, Tank versus Ryan or Haney versus Loma, or looking forward to the stylistic matchup of Tank versus Ryan. And when I say it's a mumble rap fight, a bubblegum fight, I don't want to take away from that aspect of it, man. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun fight. Loma could have been undisputed, though, if he would have accepted the Kambosos fight in Australia. And Haney landed that fight due to the situation in Ukraine. So that apparently just wasn't going to happen. And I think it played out for the better. Haney went out there and got it, and let's do this fight. Either way, we're here now, and that's a hell of a fight for everything. So Haney doesn't clean the division with the Loma win. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Jesus. You got to elaborate. I'm not sure what you mean by clean the division with the Loma win. He's already technically cleaned the division if he's undisputed, right? He's got everything. He's cleaned it up. So now he's in defend mode. He's defending it. And that's another thing I like about that fight. I'm glad you brought this up, is I like the fact one of the problems with undisputed in the 4-belt era in the past few years is when a guy becomes undisputed, it's almost like, all right, I've done it. Let's move up a division. Right? So it doesn't seem sustainable, right? Not only that, Josh Taylor talked about this before the Catterall fight. He's like, I don't know if I can keep doing this because they're making me pay 11% of my purse in sanctioning fees. This is not sustainable. How am I supposed to pay 11% of my purse in sanctioning fees? How am I supposed to defend all these belts? And I guess you can negotiate those down the bigger fighter you are, right? I'm sure Canelo negotiates that down, that percentage. I'm sure he's got that leverage power. But the reason I like Canelo staying at 168 instead of moving up to 175, and that's one of the downfalls of the Bivol fight, is I like an undisputed champion saying, I'm going to just take on the guys coming up, the next guys. Haney, I'm going to take on Lomachenko. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to just take on Lomachenko. I'm going to put all my belts on the line. Canelo, if he fights Benavidez, I'll put all my belts on the line. Whatever. Instead of Josh Taylor vacating, or being stripped because he simply can't defend it. They make it tough to defend undisputed. They make it super tough. So I like when it's defended. I like that everything's on the line. Loma has to start faster against Haney. He can't give up the first 4 rounds. And that's what I said yesterday with D-Style and again earlier today. You can't be downloading data early in the fight. You can't go 7 rounds where you're throwing like 20 punches per round. You can't do that again. This is Lomachenko's chance to right the wrongs of the past. Salido, he lost that fight because experience earlier on. Salido sort of roughing him up. Dirty tactics, or tough tactics, I should say, clever tactics, experienced tactics, and Lomachenko started late. Teofimo Lopez, he didn't start till round 8. You can't do that. I'm texting D-Style during the fight. I'm like, what the hell is going on? They're saying he's downloading data, but he's not even throwing any punches. You can download data till you're blue in the face. If you're not winning rounds, it doesn't matter. You gave up the fight in the first 7 rounds. You gave up the first 7 rounds. This is his chance to right that wrong. I'll stick Lomachenko before because Ortiz had more power. I got Haney winning UD, but does he move up to 140 after Loma win, or does he fight Shakur? He's saying he doesn't mind fighting Shakur at 135. And I think that's what Bob wants too. So, man, I'd love to see that. I'd love to see him stick around at 135 the rest of the year and try to execute that. Haney had the Reggie WBC belt at the time. That's why the Cam Haney fight was considered the official undisputed fight. Loma wouldn't have been undisputed officially, according to some. Yeah, that's true. That is true. Great fight. Whoever wins, I might slightly edge to Haney due to the timing. A few years back, I wouldn't. Have definitely favored Loma. Still very close in my mind who wins. And that being said, Haney has never your money's on the younger guy. Loma has a pattern now of giving up early rounds. Haney's undisputed wasn't impressive until now, and I agree. And let me say this as well with Haney versus Lomachenko and dispelling false narratives out there. Is there have been some false narratives on both sides of this with both fighters in their fan bases. I like Paulie Malignaggi. I love him as a commentator, but I don't understand this hard-on he has for Haney. I don't get it. Haney has not shown in recent memory that he's a duck. He's never shown. I talked about this months ago when people were saying, is it going to happen? It's going to happen. I said it's going to happen because neither one of these fighters have shown tendencies to duck other fighters that they need to fight when a fight is in demand. I don't understand Paulie Malignaggi's hard-on right now for Haney. Maybe there's something. I'm sure there's something personal in the past. I'm sure that's what it is. But if you're a commentator, you got to let that stuff go and just call it down the middle. And Haney doesn't have a track record of, I don't think for once that Haney has feared Lomachenko for 3 years and that fight didn't happen because of Haney. And on the opposite side of that, you have the Lomachenko detractors who are spreading false rumors that Lomachenko ducked Haney 3 years ago. So on one side, you got, oh, Haney's aging out Lomachenko. Then the other side, you got, oh, Lomachenko was ducking the young lion. It just didn't happen. It did not happen either way. Neither one of these fighters fear each other, and they never did. Never did. And now they're going to fight the fight. Lomachenko picked the Teofimo fight for a reason, and then the Haney fight didn't happen because of that. But why would you fight Haney in that instance instead of Teofimo? Ducking never happened between these two fighters when it comes to each other. It just didn't happen. And I see this too. And Andre Ward, I'll just circle right back to this, is when you have some hatred in your heart, you got to guard you against yourself a lot of times. And this isn't just boxing. When you have something deep in your heart that's bothering you about a certain individual, you got to be able to breathe and then just get out there and let it go and then just try to call it down the middle. You don't want that affecting what you do. And I think some of these guys have developed grudges against certain fighters. Andre Ward specifically with Canelo, Polly with Haney. Everybody has their weaknesses. You got to be able to check yourself before you wreck yourself, right? No, you got to be able to check yourself before you come out and do podcasts and give takes, because it matters. It matters. It's the same with these channels. Like, you got to be able, before you run with narratives, just wait and see. It's like, just wait and see how things play out. Just wait and see. You don't have to be first. You don't have to be the one with the hot take that ends up being the cold take. Just wait and see how things play out. You don't have to say that, you know, the Canelo fans are now inserting Morrell Jr. when it was, turns out, that aged significantly bad, because they already had that fight apparently in the contract. It was his own manager who brought this up. It was his own dad who signed on to it. This was already in play before the WBA even brought it up. There's no need to go there, fellas. Like, don't ruin your credibility. Yeah, I'm done. I must not say Voldemort's name anymore. I must not say his name. Morrell Jr., the 8-0 boogeyman from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Must not say his name. On that note, see y'all tomorrow. We'll have some betting odds tomorrow. Talk about Robeisy Ramirez against Robeisy Ramirez versus Dog Bay, Anthony Joshua fight, and some betting odds tomorrow, and some other things, I'm sure. Appreciate y'all rolling through again. God bless y'all. Peace. I'm out.